Oh yeah. That didn't download the Gazon dose draw.
Okay, so today we will start this session with questions that we had leftovers from from Wednesday's session. There are 4 of these questions. The first one is a question about those special features and the greatness of the Lamrim. We said that the Lamrim has 4 types of greatness and 3 special features. And in one of the greatness of the Lamrim was that it is complete in the sense that includes and incorporates all the crucial points of Sutra and Tantra. So the question was about this point, and the question is, where can we find in the Lamrim the presentation of Tantra? So Geshe was saying, if you actually look at different Lamrim texts, according to the length of the Lamrim, you will find a mention in Tantra. So for example, in the Lamp to the Path, we only find a couple of lines that give reference to Tantra. If we look into the more extensive Lamrim, Lamrim Chenmo, after the presentation of the 6 perfections, there is a short section there that says, having properly relied upon the spiritual teacher, indicating the general spiritual teacher that will teach you all the Sutric Mahayana, you then have to rely upon a Vajra master, someone who is fully qualified. Once you find this qualified Vajra master, you receive initiation from him. Receiving initiation in Tantra is the entrance to the tantric vehicle, and then it continues by saying whatever vows and commitments you assumed at the time of the initiation, you have to safeguard them like your life. You have to safeguard them like you guard your own eyes. And in this way, you will progress along the grounds and paths, along the 2 stages, generation and completion stage, in order to quickly reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. You have to follow the quick Vajrayana path. So that is the mention of the crucial points of Tantra. The second question was, we mentioned that there is a particular way that we need to listen, and when we listen, we must listen by being free from the 3 faults of the pot, and we should listen with the 6 useful attitudes. So in one of those faults, the faults of the pot is that you are upside down or you are leaking and so forth. Leaking pot in the sense that you are forgetful. And the question was, like, sometimes we go to the teachings, and when you hear it for the first time, perhaps you don't understand the meaning of what is said. And if you don't understand the meaning, most likely you're going to forget what has been presented. So how can we, from the beginning, overcome the fault of forgetting what is being presented? So Geshe is saying that, yes, of course, this often happens, in the teachings. You go into the teachings and there is a presentation and you don't get the meaning, even at the level of, the meaning of the words, which is the initial level of understanding. So if this happens, then it is very good to ask a question straight away and try to clarify. So show interest and take initiative and ask the question, say, sorry, I didn't understand this point. So this will clarify the first obstacle, like I didn't understand the meaning. Then the second thing is not to forget it. And not to forget it means that actually you have to revise that point. And this is the crucial point that we say, that listening, just hearing these things once is not enough. So do something to remind yourself, okay, and say, yesterday he taught this, today he taught that. Let me look at my notes. So you revise as a means of refreshing that material, and don't just leave it merely to listening, because if you just leave it at that, you will forget.
I think the network at Geshe in India has frozen, so let's just take a moment to wait for Geshe to be back again.
So the first question that we have is from last session, from Wednesday's session, is about the way that we listen. There are points about the way that we listen. So we say that we must have some special attitude when we listen to the Lamrim, and one of them was the recognition that our diligent practice is like a cure. So the question is, we're at the stage where we just arrived and we're just listening to the teaching. So how can it be expected from us already to be practicing and practicing diligently and seeing this as the cure? We're still at the early stage of receiving the teaching. So that could Geshe please clarify this? So what we say here is that when we go and listen to the teachings, we must have this attitude, we must have this recognition, and that actually refers to our motivation. So we attend a teaching and we should have the intention, the motivation that says whatever teachings I hear here, whatever I receive, I will put them into practice diligently. And I understand that if I practice them in this way, this will be my cure. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to be expected to be practicing already as you just received the teachings. So Geshe was saying, for example, if you're practicing ethics, like you have to have extensive teachings on Vinaya. Before you receive all the teachings, you're not already practicing. But when you go to receive the teachings, you must go with this attitude that says, whatever I listen to, I will diligently practice it. So this is what the point refers to. Okay. Now for the second question, it is again about these recognitions that is expected from us to have when we receive Lamrim teachings. So it's that point that says that we should see the spiritual teacher as the Tathagata. And the question is, does the spiritual guide or the spiritual teacher here means our own guru? So is this point saying that I should be seeing the Lama who is teaching the Lamrim as being the Buddha? Is this what the point is about? So Geshe was saying that actually in most Lamrim texts, although there is a little bit of variation, however, in most Lamrim texts, these points comes up exactly with these terms. You should have the attitude that the spiritual guide is like the Tathagata. Okay, so what we have to understand here that the Tathagata refers to the Buddha. So for us, ordinary beings who are experiencing all the suffering in samsara, and we are earnestly looking for liberation, when the Buddha is giving us teachings or has set out this tradition of teachings that can be extremely helpful for us, he's a teacher who will not fool us. He is a non-deceptive teacher. So this particular expression, to see the spiritual guide as the Tathagata, indicates that we should have the attitude that the teachings that the Buddha is giving to us, people who are interested in obtaining liberation, those teachings are non-deceptive teachings, that this teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, is a non-deceptive teacher. Okay. There is, as we say, in some Lamrims, we might find a variation of this term. And the variation of the term says you should see the spiritual guide as a holy being. Now, that's a bit different. And if you phrase it this way, then this allows the interpretation of saying that this refers to my guru. So I should see my guru as being a holy being, in the sense of the guru being an emanation of Buddha Shakyamuni. However, the main way that we interpret this point is that Buddha Shakyamuni, who is our spiritual guide, is a non-deceptive teacher who teaches us and will guide us. So there is this recognition. also, as we say, we must have this very strong recognition when we are attending teachings that we are the sick ones. We are like the patient. Why? Because since beginningless time, we have been under the influence of afflictions. Like we are afflicted, we are sick with those afflictions. So this is the attitude we should have. And then the other recognition that we have is that the Dharma is like the medicine. So this particular teaching that is given here, the Dharma that we're talking about, is the graduated path to enlightenment. And for us who have been suffering from afflictions since beginningless time, this graduated path to enlightenment, this presentation is like the medicine for us. It's the one thing that will cure us from all this. So this is how we should listen. And then the next point is that we should have the recognition that the spiritual guide the spiritual guide is like the very skillful physician. Okay, so then that what we understand here is that I have a teacher, I have a guru who is teaching me the graduated stages to the path to enlightenment. And this is like a medicine that will help me recover from all the afflictions. So he's like a very skillful physician that is giving me exactly the type of medicine that I need. And then we come to the fourth practice, that is the recognition that says, my diligent practice will be like the cure. So he has taught in a very skillful way. He's teaching me exactly what I need in order to overcome this sickness of afflictions. And from my side, I'm willing and very enthusiastic to put those things into practice exactly as he explained them. I will apply them. I will put them into practice. So this is the interpretation of the point. And then we come to the fifth point, which is what we just explained before, that we have the recognition of the spiritual guide as being like the Tathagata, because the source and the origin of those graduated stages to the path to enlightenment is Buddha Shakyamuni. And Buddha Shakyamuni has taught all these points of the path in a way that is non-deceptive. So he's a non-deceptive teacher that has given us this entire presentation. So this is the attitude that we should have when we come to attend Lamrim teachings.